Hi there, everyone. The Democrat debates are becoming a 2020 disaster. That's what we'll be talking about on today's video. We're going to find out why even Democrats are admitting that they are in some serious trouble in terms of 2020 and why it's appearing more and more likely that Donald Trump will indeed be a two-term president. But first, have you noticed that the price of gold is rocketing? Its demand is at a 3-year high. And that's why investors seeking shelter for the stocks they cashed in are piling into precious metals. And you can too. If you want financial cushion for your own splashdown on retirement, then you'd better get some gold or silver into your IRA or 401k before it's too late to catch up. So give our good friends over at Noble Gold a call at 877-646-5347 to find out how you can protect your investment and keep your fund intact. 877-646-5347. Make sure to mention my name, Dr. Steve Turley, or click on the link below to get your own free gold and silver investment guide. It's already been downloaded over 50,000 times, so don't wait. Click on the link or call that number and get your free gold and silver investment guide today. All right, Michael Goodwin over at the New York Post has a great piece today reacting to the third Democrat debate last night in Houston. According to Goodwin, bottom line, President Trump was the real winner of the debate last night. And that's because Joe Biden has once again proven that he is simply not cut out to be the nominee. Take, for example, the widely observed incoherence. Goodwin notes that for 40 years, Biden has been known as a person who just would never shut up, okay? He's always had something to say. He always gets in front of the camera, right? Now he has a hard time actually finishing a sentence without interrupting himself. Nearly all of his efforts to make a point were thwarted by a sudden change of direction in mid-sentence, only to end with another random thought that just happened to pop in his head and then subsequently out his mouth. As Goodwin rather humorously noted, none of Biden's opponents needed to interrupt him. He was doing that constantly to himself. If you listen to some of the sound bites, you'll see that most of the time, Biden really had no idea what he was trying to say. I mean, Goodwin's on record for predicting that Biden is not going to be the nominee. I agreed with him. I said the same thing. I think we're both coming from similar vantage points here. This is simply not the Democratic Party that it was 40 years ago, when Joe Biden first appeared on the scene. For your hardcore Democratic activists today, there's really no difference between Biden and Bush when all's said and done. Biden is having to defend a political record that Democrats see more as indicative of a neocon than as a full-fledged cultural Marxist leftist liberal. And that's who owns the Democratic Party today. So Biden's trying to run on a 40-year record within a party that has embraced the revolutionary radical left, a revolutionary radical left that's even firing shots at 8 years of Barack Obama. Obama was way too moderate for these radical leftists. And Joe Biden is doing everything he can to try to distance himself from his relatively moderate record over the last 4 decades in order to look like, the prince of progressives. And he ain't cutting it. And he's certainly not playing the part, very well for Democrats or for moderates, or for that matter. But Democrats don't want to go with a Hillary Clinton part 2, or as Goodwin has put it, they don't want to go with their own version of Bob Dole or John McCain, just completely uninspiring candidate that's destined to have lost before he's even begun his candidacy. So Goodwin has predicted from the beginning of this campaign season that Biden will not be the nominee. And as of last night, he said that he was all the more certain about that prediction, more than ever. Biden is simply not capable of going the distance in the primaries, weathering the barrage of criticism that he's getting and the antagonism from his opponents, only then to face the Godzilla of all candidates, Donald Trump, in the general election. I mean, did you see what Julian Castro did to him last night, how he insinuated that Biden was senile? Castro called Biden out for crafting a plan that would not automatically enroll Americans into a public health care option when they lose their private insurance. Instead, he was requiring that they would have to buy into a government plan. And then Biden responded by saying that, no, they won't have to buy in. I don't require them to buy in. And Castro's only response to that was to say over and over again, But you just said that. You just said they would have to buy in. Have you already forgotten what you just said 2 minutes ago? You can't remember what you just said 2 minutes ago? I mean, that was some pretty brutal stuff for sure. And so you would think that Elizabeth Warren, who's recently surged to second place in the polls, that she'd be able to capitalize on Biden's inadequacies. But ironically, even Warren falls flat. She deferred to her now really mindless platitudes of just how racist and unjust America is, how she wants to ban this and ban that and regulate this and tax that. Again, Goodwin provides a really interesting anecdote here. He mentioned that he was recently speaking to a prominent New York Democrat, okay? And this Democrat actually said that of all the candidates, Elizabeth Warren was probably the only one he couldn't vote for. She's just too radical. I don't get his point, but regardless. And then this New York Democrat chuckled and said, you know, she's probably going to get the nomination and then turn around and lose all 50 states. Goodwin notes, too, that beyond her one-size-fits-all answers, you didn't hear a single thing Warren ever said of what she appreciated about America. She's so invested in smashing everything and then starting over in her own cultural Marxist mold. She may very well experience one of the worst landslide defeats ever seen by an American presidential candidate, were she to get the candidacy. Bernie Sanders fared a little better. He just appeared as his usual angry old man self. And then you had Beto O'Rourke coming out and saying flat out, hell yeah, we're going to grab your guns. I mean, literally just after weeks, he said that gun control was not about gun grabbing. I mean, the desperation on the part of these fringe candidates is just flat out insane at this point. And when you put all that together with the other dithering candidates, the only thing that was cemented from the evening was the notion that the Democrats are still far from settling on either the person or the path that they hope will lead them to the White House in 2020. And of course, this is all going on while congressional Democrats are chasing their own tails trying to figure out whether they're going to go ahead with articles of impeachment against President Trump or whether they're just going to keep harassing him like these pathetic stalkers. Again, we're seeing something similar here as with the presidential campaign. All Democrats agree they hate Trump. They just can't flipping agree how best to express that hatred and contempt. And in the process, they end up more and more slaughtering each other. I don't think it's a coincidence that we have recent polls now that are showing that a vast majority of Americans believe Trump will be reelected. Even the CNN poll was showing that. The latest one I saw was from Scott Rasmussen, which found that 63% of those polled believed that Trump was going to be reelected. And there was another poll, I think it was just released today, that found that more than 2/3 of top executives who are making their business forecast, they believe Trump will be reelected. I don't think you have to be a genius to figure out what. Just look at what happened in North Carolina this week. The GOP were supposed to lose 2 special election seats this past Tuesday. A few weeks back, the Republican candidates were down in the polls almost by double digits to the Democratic candidates. The media suddenly began pushing this notion that the North Carolina special elections were bellwether elections that would spell doom for President Trump in 2020. If Republicans don't win in North Carolina, Trump's finished. That's all we heard. Then Trump held a rally in Fayetteville, North Carolina, a day or so before the elections. And boom, both Republican candidates trounced the Democratic opponents. And what does the media do? They pretend like the whole thing didn't even happen. They drop the whole story. And again, this is because the media doesn't report news. It fabricates the news. It concocts it. The media is the news. The Marxist media has created a hologram reality that it then fabricates news stories for so as to convey a sense of the reality of that hologram. But that reality is the construction of the cultural Marxists. It doesn't actually exist. And when real reality breaks through the hologram, the news media ignores it and simply refuses to acknowledge its existence. But there's no hiding it anymore. The Democrats are revealing themselves to be the cultural Marxists that they really are, as is the media. And the vast majority of the nation wants nothing to do with it. They're turning more and more towards nation, culture, custom, and tradition as the basis for a humane and flourishing social life. And they know that for all of his faults and imperfections, it is Donald Trump that is the champion of just such a nationalist, populist vision. Now, before you go, I've posted a number of videos highlighting my great conversation with the amazing Brazilian philosopher Olavo de Carvalho. He is considered the intellectual godfather of the new nationalist populist President Jair Bolsonaro of Brazil. It's a great video, and I think you'll just love the insights that Olavo de Carvalho provides into a philosophical vision of a post-secular, post-globalist world. So click on that link at the top left of this video, and I'll see you over there. God bless.